All right, so we're sitting here with Alex from Mano. Is that the correct?
Yeah, Mano. Yep.
Okay, cool. I'm gonna pull up my notes. I was doing, I was like Googling all the guests and everything before I have them on, and I found your SoundCloud. I'm assuming it's yours.
Oh.
Your SoundCloud from like 10 years ago.
That sounds about right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It might have been a little bit longer than that, but yeah. In high school, I played in like a punk rock band, and we would play around town with my friends. We were probably 16 years old.
Yeah.
We'd pack up like my Volkswagen Golf, and we'd play in like Funk and Waffles in like the basement for like ska parties.
That's awesome.
It was a lot of fun. It was, oh God. It was, I have a couple buddies that stayed in music, and one guy's down in Nashville, and as long as he doesn't hear this, we'll be fine, because he'll freak out. He's like, they brought that up.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's funny, man. My sister lives in Nashville.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I love Nashville.
It's so cool.
Yeah. It's so she lives in Nashville. She's completely different though. She's a traveling minister.
Oh, okay.
Right.
All right. Yeah. Well,
and she has a podcast.
It works in Nashville very well.
Yeah. She has a podcast, and she just had Amy Grant as a guest on her podcast. Isn't that crazy?
Oh my God, that's amazing.
I know.
That's super cool.
Yeah. So she did this 3-hour interview with Amy Grant, and then Amy Grant invited her to go hang out at her farm on Sunday.
Oh, wow.
So they did the podcast Friday, and then Sunday she went and spent like the whole afternoon hanging out with Amy Grant on her farm.
I mean, that's perfect.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Like, I feel like that only happens in Nashville.
I can't think of any other place it would probably happen. I mean, I went down there in October for the guy that was in my band's wedding. Yeah. And I got out of service on Saturday at 11 o'clock, and then we drove straight down to Nashville.
Oh,
I got there at like 6 in the and then we went to the wedding, and then as soon as the wedding was over, we went to the rehearsal dinner, and then after that, I just like stayed up all night and went around Nashville and ate at all these places. It was great.
Yeah. Whenever I think of Nashville now, I think of the episode of Master of None. Did you ever see that with?
No, I have with Aziz Ansari. Yeah, no, I got to watch it because I heard he goes to Osteria Francesca as well. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's so there's just this episode where he's in Nashville, and he's going trying to find this white barbecue sauce, and he winds up. He's like, we have to go to the restaurant to get it. Even though they're going to risk missing their flight.
Oh, okay.
And they have to get back to New York for like his girlfriend's niece's recital that she can't miss. And, sure enough, they wind up missing the flight. And as they're sitting in the airport waiting 8 hours for the next flight, there's like this whole display of this white barbecue sauce that he just bought that made them miss it.
Right before you get on the plane. Oh, my God.
And I definitely went out and bought a bottle of white barbecue sauce after that.
Absolutely.
And hated it.
Okay. That's fair. Right. That's fair. That's the, you get that Nashville or Alabama white, I think it is. But,
yeah.
Oh, God.
So 16 music stuff around here. And, I mean, your dad, so you grew up around here, correct?
Yeah, I was born and raised. I lived in Eastwood my entire life.
Okay.
And then I was here until I was 19. I went to OCC for 2 years, or a little under 2 years. And I worked with Deb Schneider and James Taylor, who are over at OCC. They started to run the culinary program over there. Yeah. And they were awesome. And I ended up getting a scholarship to the CIA.
Wow.
So then I went there for 2 years, and then let's go.
Yeah, so was CIA on your radar, like, while you were in, like, is it something you were going after, or was it just something that kind of came about?
I kind of just fell into it. So I wanted to work in restaurants, basically. So I worked at, I started working at the Brooklyn Pickle when I was 16. Okay. I was washing dishes and then making a couple sandwiches. And then when I graduated and started in college, I started working for my dad at Avicoli's. I was a busboy, a little bit of serving, a little bit of fry cooking. Mm-hmm. And I had fun doing that. And then I started at OCC, like just doing a couple culinary courses, but I was really focusing on the front of the house. Mm-hmm. For the most part, and because that's what I was doing the most of, and like you realize very quickly in the front of the house you can make like a lot of money, and when you're 18 you're like, this is the most amazing thing in the world, and you got a bunch of cash in your pocket. And then I had a buddy, and he was like, do you want to come work with me in a kitchen? And I was like, sure, why not? And I went and worked at the DoubleTree for 6 months over in Carrier Circle. Yeah. My buddy Matt, he was in the same class at OCC with me. He was the banquet chef there. Okay. And I started to cook like, it was pretty like basic food, but it was high volume, and I never really was like, besides a couple fry cook shifts at Avicoli's, never really in like a high volume like bang it out kind of line, and you're like, oh, this is really cool. And you're like sitting there and you're kind of thinking, and you're like, oh, I could be in the front of the house and manage restaurants and learn how to do that. But if I don't know anything about food, what's the point of being in a restaurant if you if you don't really know, anyone can cook a vegetable, but like if you don't understand how it works, how are you going to be able to explain it to your guests? So then I started to fall like really deep into the culinary thing, and then I read about best culinary schools, and Deb Schneider is a graduate from the CIA, and she ended up writing an awesome recommendation for me when I graduated OCC.
That's awesome.
And I got a big scholarship, so I went. Couldn't turn it down, so went down to the Hudson Valley, and it's crazy. And as soon as you go there, you're in.
I mean, like getting out of the CIA, or is it just opportunities are just kind of waiting for you, or how does that work? I've always been curious about that.
Yeah, so they have a really, really good alumni program. So basically, like if I wanted to, I haven't been able to sit down and figure it out yet. But if I wanted to, I could put my restaurant on an internship thing. So you can and since they're interns, you can decide if you want to pay them, don't want to pay them. The top restaurants don't pay their interns.
Right.
It all depends. A lot of people go to Disney because they make $15 an hour.
Really?
Yeah, they make it as like an intern. And I mean, you work there for 6 months, and then you go back to the CIA and finish out your 6 months. It's only a 1.5-year program.
Wow.
So 9 months of pretty intense, like basic culinary skills.
Yeah. And
then a couple like cuisines, you learn how to work on the line, and then you go to a restaurant. For me, I went to Osteria in Philadelphia, a restaurant ran by Mark Vetri.
Yeah.
And they kicked my ass. So they paid you $50 a day. Shift starts at whenever you need to get there to get your stuff done. For me, it was like 9:30, and then shift ends whenever you get your stuff done. Yeah. So it was midnight sometimes. It was 1, but it was a lot of fun. I loved every second of it. Yeah. So we did 6 months there, and then went back to the CIA to finish it out. So you take a couple of they start to teach you more in-depth cuisines. You do a really awesome 3-week intensive wine course that you just drink.
Yeah, that'd be amazing.
Awesome wines all the time. And you basically are just sitting there studying wine. So when you get out of wines class, you and your friends go over to the liquor store and you buy 6 bottles of wine and you just start drinking and talking about wine, and then you got to go on the next day and you wake up and you do that in class, and then you go to the liquor store again. It's just it's an endless loop, but it's so much fun. And then you work in restaurants for the last 12 weeks, and that's cool. Yeah, you can kind of pick. So I worked in an American restaurant and an Italian restaurant, and you work front and back of the house.
Really?
Yeah. So they give you a quick intensive thing, and then they send you on your way. So they graduate a class every 3 weeks. So it's endless, and you can make a lot of connections. That I have friends in probably every major city in the country right now, just from the CIA.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, it was really fun.
So you get there, and then you went to. Did you go to Philadelphia after you graduated?
Yeah, so I graduated. I don't know the year anymore. October 2013 or 14.
Okay.
And then right after that, I went back to Osteria. I worked there. I ended up working there for 2 years after that. I ended up, after 4 months out of culinary school, they made me a manager. And it was madness. I lost 50 pounds, and it was just it was crazy, but it was really fun. And there's only one way to learn in this business, and that's throw yourself into the fire as hard as you can, and then see what happens.
Do you think there's people that are just cut for the industry, or do you think anybody can kind of get into it if they put their,
if you want to learn about it, you have to decide that that's what you're going to do.
Yeah.
Because the level of dedication that a lot of people put into the business is really next level, and to maintain with that, and to be able to keep up with that pace, it takes a lot. Yeah. And I think anybody could do it. You just have to want to do it more than you want to do anything else. Yeah.
There's no normal life in the industry, though.
No.
I mean, that is your life.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm we're probably, me and my girlfriend run a mano, and we're probably at about 100 hours a week a piece. But yeah, it's what you do.
Yeah.
And you have to really like it, and you have to like want to keep like expand. You have to keep expanding on your knowledge. It's one of those industries, and I mean there are other ones where you have to stay the most up to date, or you look dated extremely fast, and you have to educate yourself on how to be like be able to take that step. And that was what was nice about being in Philly. There's 20 restaurants opening at any given time, and you go and you see all these new things and all these like crazy ideas. It's just, you're like, oh, that'll never work, and then you're like, oh shit, that's delicious.
How do you do that in Syracuse though? Because I could be completely wrong and biased, but I do feel that things take a little bit of time to get here.
I think they can. When I think it's faster now than it ever was because of like social media. You can follow like, the best restaurants in the country. You can see what they're doing.
Yeah.
And you can kind of give an idea for it, but you just have to, buy cookbooks.
Yeah.
That's the top thing. And then when you can, so in restaurant business, there's these things called stages. If you ever get a chance to like, and even here you could, if you walked into my kitchen, you're like, hey, I want to learn how to cook. And
Yeah.
Come on, let's go. What do you want to learn how to do? I got something for you. You can do it. But yeah, I think you kind of around here, it's always just trying to like, a couple of weeks ago, we did an event, and then I ended up hanging out with Kyle from Kasai.
Yeah.
And I never cooked Japanese food in my life. And I went and he showed me his kitchen, and he showed me his crazy noodle machine he just got. And it was super cool. And it's just like, yeah, you just got to keep connecting and like keep learning about different things. And there's lots of like really cool things going on here as well. It's just a matter of fact, if you can, get out of your restaurant and go find it.
Yeah. I'm constantly amazed how much great food is coming into Syracuse. And especially people, I don't know, maybe it's just my awareness is like recently opening up about people that are coming from CIA and Johnson & Wales and all that kind of stuff. But I'm just blown away at the quality of food that's coming out of kitchens in the city. Yeah,
it's definitely, I think it's taking a big, a big upturn. It's taking like a really interesting like swing, and like it's becoming much more hyper local, which I really enjoy. It's becoming much more like, I think it's quicker to come to the cutting edge. It's getting like it happens. It's catching up to big cities quicker than it once was.
Yeah.
And it's all just, it's continuing like, I think you have to maintain your market appeal to the general crowd, and be able to ride that line.
Yeah.
And it can be hard sometimes, but it's a line that like every cook should understand how to run. Like if you're not selling a certain thing, evolve, move. I mean, it is what it is. We try to run at a mano, so we have our tagline of modern American with Italian influence, and that's because I think, at least so I grew up in an Italian American restaurants all over the place. My dad owned Reggio in the 90s, which was down in the Syracuse Bank building, where Prime is there.
Yeah.
And then he went into Avicoli's, so I know Italian American food inside and out, and I think that's an understanding of what Italian food is here.
Yeah.
And when you go to Italy, and you do things like that, you get an understanding of basically that Italians basically just look up and use what's around them closest to in season and like at the best quality of all times. There's no like actual designated food. They grow things, and then whatever they grow they cook, and it's like hyper regional there. And I think there's a way that America's starting to take that shape. I mean, there's always been regionalities like barbecue in the South and like New England clam chowder in New England, but it's starting to like take shape a little bit more. Like we can't grow certain things here in the fall and winter. Yeah. And we don't try not to use them as much.
Right.
So.
I mean, with that in mind, it's probably, I've never been, but if I had to guess, I'd say with that in mind about Italy, it would be rare to find a lot of seafood on the menu in like northern Italy.
Right. Yeah. So, sorry. So northern Italy, mountainous, they hang a lot of salumis. So where I worked at Osteria was traditionally northern Italy, mainly based out of it's an area called Bergamo.
Okay.
They do a lot of braises. We had a wood fire grill, wood fire oven. So a lot of braises, a lot of like really good salumis from like that northern central region. That's where you get your prosciuttos, your hard aged cheeses, and all the stuff like that. And then when you go south where it gets hotter, they're kind of like, okay, I don't want to like stand over a stove all day. It's cold in the mountains. I'm going to make pizza and it's going to take 2 minutes and I only have to stand near fire for a couple of minutes. And then I'll go to the sea and take what I need where it kind of like shallows out.
Yeah.
So when me and my girlfriend left Philly, we went to Europe for 7 months and lived in some tents and stuff. Traveled throughout Italy. So we went from north to south and you kind of get a feel and it's hyper different. It's crazy.
I mean, with that in mind, how do you think that should, or how do you think it should affect local food in Syracuse, for example? I mean, do you think we should be, there's so much influence that comes in, obviously. I mean, Italian and, we're doing seafood and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
And you do have people like the fish fryer who are at least, going to the coast.
Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
And I'm sure plenty others are. But, how do you think that affects Syracuse, to kind of work with what's here?
Right. So I think for the most part, you can do it to like a really good extent of like using what's around you. There's becoming a better network of farms that are kind of like intertwined and that you're able to like pull from. We'll go to the regional market or the downtown market the downtown market while it's open, and then the regional market we'll try to go all year long and grab some stuff. And it's really about being fluid in your menu, I think. So we print on a paper menu. Probably we reprint menus every week. Try to change one or two things up depending on the season, and we kind of just you have to be able to look around you and decide I want to use this while you still can before you run out of time. So it's all about proper preparation prevents piss poor performance.
Yeah. Right.
And it's all just knowing what's in season, learning what's in season, and then having a plan when that comes into season to be able to utilize it because of the general short growing periods for the most part.
Right.
We get a good spring and a good summer, but if it's too wet or too dry, it depends. But there are some awesome produce around here. I buy a lot of stuff from Grindstone Farms. We developed a good relationship with them.
Yeah.
And I really like their stuff. And they're, for me, at the size of the restaurant that we're trying to run, it's important for me for like convenience. And they have a nice website that I can go in and order things, and it makes it a little bit easier for me. And that was nice about Philly, and I would like to see a little bit more of that here, because you could go, there was a couple of different basically like farm conglomerations on like a small scale where a bunch of farms would put their stuff together and you can buy them and bring them in, and it just makes it a little bit easier for the restaurateur.
Yeah, for sure. Walk me through a little bit like the process of getting the restaurant open, because you guys are coming up on the first year. Right?
Yeah. So we hit a year at the end of this month. I got a phone call from my dad in July, and he was like, "Oh, you want to come open a restaurant up at Syracuse?" And I was like, "Let me talk to my girlfriend real quick." She was born and raised in Philly, so I was like, "All right, let me talk to my girlfriend real quick." I was like, "You want to go up to Syracuse and open a restaurant?" She was like, "Yeah, sure."
Like
which is like opposite. A very like
It's the opposite of Kyle.
Oh,
Kyle was from Philly in Philly. I forget if he was born and raised in Philly, but they're both in Philly, and his now wife is from Syracuse, and they're dating at the time, and she says, "Well, I'm going to Syracuse," and he follows her.
Follows her. You gotta go.
Yeah.
It was very like, it was almost kind of like, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. Let's do that. She was working on a farm at the time on the outside of Philly, and I was working at a gastropub, and we're just like, yeah, let's go. Let's give it a go. So we went up with my dad, and we hopped in the old Fabio's space. It was a general kind of like, all right, we're going to do this. We talked about doing this, for a while. My dad's done the front of the house thing around here for a long time. He did the back of the house thing for a while. Now he's older and he's in the front of the house. It's kind of the natural progression sometimes.
Yeah. Is Fabio a partner in this, in Mano?
No.
I know there was I heard something and I wasn't sure, because he was in there for a really short time.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, he basically he left.
Yeah.
We moved in. It was, I think for him in general, it's just a very large space.
Yeah.
It's a big space, especially on Warren Street in downtown.
Yeah.
I mean, we can see if we wanted to cram it in like New York style and like kind of like change up how we sat, we could easily squeeze in 150.
Yeah.
It'd be a little tight, but it's definitely a big space. And to run that kind of operation, it's labor intensive to say the least.
Yeah.
But so yeah, we came up. Generally like semi-limited funds. You kind of run with what you got.
Yeah.
We threw on a coat of paint, kind of reorganized some stuff, did some changing around of the kitchen. And then, I came up here, I moved up here at the end of July, and we'll back up here. Moved back up here at the end of July. And then we opened in September. So it was a quick turnaround, test out some menus. It was a mad dash. And we opened probably a little bit more like Italian American than I would have liked, because my dad was worried about like general appeal to people and stuff like that. But slowly I chipped that stuff away and got it out of there. And now we're running what I think is a generally a mainly Italian menu. We source as much local as we can. We do buy. I mean, for the size that we do, it's tough. So we do buy from Cisco and Casa and stuff.
For sure.
And, they're good guys over there, and they do try to, where they can buy local. I get Reeves Farm stuff from Cisco and stuff like that.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's very, especially I'd imagine for a restaurant your size, it's got to be near impossible to get 100% of what you're going to use local.
Yeah. I mean, you could, hypothetically, like I know, like Eden and St. Urban are changing their menus weekly. Yeah. And that's where it gets a little bit easier, because you don't have to buy in such massive bulk, and they're 30-seat restaurants. Right. And I've been to St. Urban. I haven't been to Eden, but St. Urban was awesome. Yeah. And they're doing some really cool stuff, and we try to maintain that. We run our specials, and we get our specials. We try to maintain those local and from the farmers market and stuff like that. And a lot of things on the menu we buy when we can, but to maintain that size, yeah, it's pretty intense, but it's a challenge, but it's fun. It's fun. Yeah.
At the beginning of every course, my life sucks.
You can't. You got to find it all together.
Because then you're trying to because with that I can just take the image of me clapping and find the spike in audio. And then I sync it and I'm good.
Perfect.
If not, I'm like zooming in and trying to see your mouth and where it's it's pretty frustrating.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Well, at least you got it all figured out, obviously.
Yeah, man. This is stuff I like in last November. I don't know what it was, but I was sitting on Thanksgiving morning, flipping through like the Black Friday ads, and just the thought popped into my head: I should be doing way better content than I am. I've had the podcasting stuff. I bought it when I first started Eat Local like 3.5 years ago. Okay. And we did a few podcasts with like Gio over at the Fish Fryer when they were in Solvay and stuff like that. And back then it was near impossible to get a podcast out if you didn't know what you were doing. Nowadays it's the easiest thing. You can do it from your phone. And, and so I've had this stuff, and I was like, I really need to start doing a better job of it, especially with the card and like all these restaurants and trying to constantly promote them. It's like, all right, it's time to step things up.
Yeah. So. I mean, when we found out we were moving back, I started following guys like you and Chris over at Eat CNY and stuff like that. And you get and I think you guys do a great job. I mean, in general, I haven't been around it that long. We're trying to make connections as much as we can.
Yeah,
but,
for sure.
Spend all our time at the restaurant.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm learning slowly. And I don't know how you feel about competition, like in the downtown from other restaurants and stuff like that. But, if you talk to a lot of the beer makers in the area, and you ask them, how do you feel? Like I had Tim from Buried Acorn on recently. Okay. And I was like, and Mike, I haven't talked to one person at a brewery in Syracuse that has been like, yeah, I can't stand those guys.
Oh, yeah.
They all get along. They're all like, we just want to go after Miller and Budweiser. And if we can get a small percentage of their stuff, we're happy.
Absolutely. I think, and it's starting to come more to Syracuse, which is nice. In Philly, I think that's kind of what keeps everybody, progressing forward. That competition's extremely important. If like your stuff's not up to par,
Yeah.
they're going to go somewhere else.
Right.
And that maintains your drive to, continue to be better because you want to be successful.
Yeah.
And I think that as like the competition evolves, you're kind of like, oh, look what they're doing over there.
Mm-hmm.
And, there's a bit of like, people call it stealing, but it's like a sharing of general ideas. I mean, you're not the first person to do anything. You're not going to be the last person to do anything 99% of the time.
Yeah.
And so you're just kind of like, oh, that's a really good idea. I haven't thought of it in that way. And, you kind of, your restaurant evolves as other restaurants around you evolve. So as long as there's, new ideas and developing menus, I think in that way you get a better restaurant scene in general through competition.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I think it's really, really important.
What's been one of the biggest challenges this year?
So I think it came along with we were talking about the tagline earlier when we run Modern American with Italian Soul. Recently it's dropped off a lot, but I still get a lot of people coming in and be like, this is an Italian restaurant. Where's your spaghetti pomodoro? Where's your, chicken franchise? Where's your, and I don't want to put it on. Cause, and to be honest, like I understand Italian American food, but I'm not going to say that I know how to cook like high volume Italian American food at like an accurate level compared to like these guys that have been doing it for 20 years. Yeah. So I'm like, if I had chicken franchise and chicken marsala and veal piccata on the menu, you're not coming here because mine's not going to be as good as theirs. Right. My, pumpkin pasta and my cauliflower raviolis that, are just like have butter on them are going to be what I know how to do better than what I can't keep up with that. Like, so there's no point. It's not beneficial to me.
And why try?
Yeah. Why? Yeah. I think especially with Italian restaurants, people have their established favorites and that's where they're going. Yeah. And we're trying to break, I think, the stigma of general Italian food in the Northeast in general. In bigger cities, it started to evolve to the point where there's like a cult following for, creative pastas. And stuff like that. So we're trying to bring some of that to here and still being able to, maintain a business by pleasing people and what they want in their palate. So
how crazy do you think food can kind of get in its search for, exploration? I mean, like, can you make a cotton candy pasta, or is that just?
You can. I think there's a couple of like different ways of thinking about it, and it's all just like what you like to eat and like what your experiences are. So like for me, my girlfriend worked on a farm. I like being near like dirt, and we built a generally substantial garden in my parents' backyard that we're like pulling tomatoes out of and peppers now, and it's super exciting.
That's awesome.
Because for me, my personal opinion is nothing is my ultimate, like, in the clouds dream would be you have a farm and you pick from that farm every day and you cook a 20-seat restaurant and because you don't understand until you like experience it. Like when you take a tomato off of the vine, how much sweeter it is than a tomato that's 2 days old compared to a tomato that's 2 weeks old. It's truly unreal. I mean, when peas were in season, you pick peas and they're like meant to be shelled, and you eat the whole shell, and it's sweet and like tender, and it really like it recently, probably within the last 2 years, my entire perspective on food has changed to where I want to be able to get the closest I can from stem or like seed to table. And the farm to table, it's 100% a movement at this point, and to an extent it's probably been overutilized. So like I kind of shy away from the word farm to table for the most part. But there's definitely a difference. And I mean, there's a difference between, 5 days and, I mean, some of these things that you get, if you get them out from California, they're driving across the country on a truck. I mean, by the time you get them, they're 3 or 4 weeks old, and they're still good for the most part, but it's not anywhere near what the first product was. It's crazy how quick they degrade. So that's the ultimate goal, is to be able to move from like seed to table as fast as possible and be able to pick that at the peak freshness. But at a restaurant of this size, we're doing what we can, but it's hard to maintain. And then, so the other way you can think about it. There's a couple different ones. So I worked with a guy who ended up staging at Alinea in Chicago, one of Grant Atkins' restaurant. I mean, peak of the restaurant. But there's an idea there. They get amazing produce, but it needs to look a certain way, and it needs to like, react a certain way. So like he was telling me, like, you buy in 8 cases of artichokes, you find your favorite case out of those 8 cases, and then the other cases, get sent to different restaurants from there. And that's another way of doing things if you're looking for aesthetic. I mean, and they're rightfully getting the money that they get to be able to do that, and it's really impressive. It's just not how like my general train of thought is, and like I find myself generally creative working with flavors, but I don't find myself generally creative like evolving like to a new like style or method of cooking. I try certain things. I'll sous vide things every now and then and stuff like that, but I haven't played around with cotton candy or anything like that.
It's probably good.
Yeah, you never know. I think I got one in my basement.
I mean, I get the I love the fair and I love going there, and I spent 2 days in the kitchen with Mark taking pictures for him, and I pretty much just stayed in like the African village at that Puerto Rican place.
Oh yeah. I went there. Yep.
It's just good, man.
It's just really good food.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And and last year I was more all over the place trying the different things. And last year there's that place in the dairy building. They did a glazed donut basically cut in half with ice cream.
Oh yeah.
And this year they did the cotton candy burrito.
I saw that. Yep.
And don't get me wrong, part of me wanted to go there and get it just because I knew it would convert well on my Instagram
Right,
account.
absolutely, of course.
And there are those thoughts, but another part of me, and I know that they're not doing, obviously that milk bar place isn't trying to do anything extraordinary in the culinary world. I get that. But it still just represents kind of, where we are. Like people will flock to a cotton candy burrito,
absolutely,
and not necessarily to a spot that picked the tomatoes 5 minutes ago.
Right, and I think it's well, obviously, like there's way more like general marketing money thrown into the sugar industry than there is like the farming industry, and it's just general like customer education, and that's what I think everybody that's involved in like the general food community is working on. But it can be tough sometimes. Yeah. But there's a place for all of it. Right. And the New York State Fair is the perfect place for a cotton candy burrito.
That is true. Yeah.
But it's just a general, evolution of things.
I mean, there are spots, and I've actually reached out to have them on the podcast, so hopefully that'll happen soon. But like Rise and Shine. Yeah. I mean, they're doing. I mentioned it in a previous episode, and then I had to go back and reconfirm it. But I mean, she had the spot and was just doing whatever, coffee and diner, eggs and potatoes, and on the verge of going out, and then transitions to
doing
her crazy stuff, and all of a sudden it starts, going up and up and up and up.
I was there a couple of weeks ago with some friends that came in town, and they're like, "We want to go there," and I was like, "All right, whatever. I've never been there," so we went, and it was really good.
It was good.
Yeah, it was good. It was really good. It was crazy over the top stuff. And, there's a funny Grub Street article a couple of weeks ago. They were talking about this ice cream vendor in New York, and he would go up to him, and people kept coming up to him and be like, "Hey, I'll post your ice cream on my Instagram. I have 25,000 followers. Like, will you give me a free ice cream?" And he was like, "No, I think I'm going to charge you double." And he just kept doing that. He's like, "I'm sick of people asking me for free ice cream because they're going to post it on Instagram." And then it worked out for him, but I don't think it always works out that way. I think social media marketing is a huge part of owning a modern day restaurant. Yeah. And, I went out, I bought a, $400 camera because I wanted to, take better food pictures, because I'm like, this looks like shit.
Do you do most of your pictures on your Instagram?
Yeah, I take all my all the pictures on the Instagram.
That's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, it's I have realized a lot about. I really actually enjoy it. Like before service, I'll take like 10 minutes, and I'll be like, all right, I got to go take about 25 pictures.
That's cool.
And then I pick the best one and I post it on the Instagram. But I've learned that I have figured out only how to take pictures of food and nothing else. I have no luck with anything else, and I don't even bother anymore. So my camera sits in my kitchen.
Yeah. That's awesome.
But yeah, no, it's real. There's always this. When I was at Osteria, we got sat down and we're like, when I was a sous chef there, they were like, okay, you have to post a picture a day. You have to tag Osteria. You have to, tag, like, say who you are in your bio and all this. And it helps. I mean, you get people following the restaurant. I mean, like, I couldn't tell you what they had. They probably had 15,000 followers when we were there. And, it's definitely, like, I think marketing for your restaurant, and you want to present yourself well.
Yeah.
And so I think for me, it's important to, like, make the food look good on that.
Yeah.
And we would come in, and I'll literally never take a picture of an empty dining room, because we got yelled at so many times. They're like, nobody wants to see an empty dining room. It makes look like nobody comes here. Like, don't ever post that. It looks ridiculous. So never post a picture of an empty dining room, and make your food look decent. That's
awesome. It's true though. I mean, not just from my perspective of doing this, but my fiance and I, Rebecca, we're going to Cape Cod in the end of this month for a friend's wedding. Mm-hmm. We were just going to, like, drive up Friday, come back Saturday morning. And I was like, let's just stay an extra day. I've never been.
Yeah.
And so her friend recommended this restaurant in the area and said it's, like, one of the most amazing restaurants there is. And I went on their Instagram and their website, and both look like trash.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, we're not going there. Like, they have, unique plating stuff that they're doing.
Right.
But I was like, no, we're not going to go
it doesn't, there. If it, I truly, it's really, and I think most, I mean, like, if you look at some of the top restaurants, I mean, like, some of them just, post the same thing over and over again.
Yeah.
Whatever. But they can do that because they have their reservation book filled every night.
Right.
So I think it's important to present yourself well. We try to present ourselves well on Open Table and stuff like that, especially around here.
Yeah.
I think Open Table is a really good resource with Syracuse University. They're like, we came here because you guys were on Open Table. And then we got lucky enough. We're starting to get a lot of Philly people, which is nice because we got the Philadelphia Inquirer reviewer brought his kid up to Syracuse and stumbled upon our restaurant, and I remember that. Yeah, it was like, so he called and it said Craig Laban with, like, a Philadelphia area code, and I was like, why is he calling my restaurant? And he was like, what? I don't. Yeah. And then he walked in, and we're like, oh shit, okay.
Yeah, it's that stuff's amazing, and it is true. There's, SU, especially for downtown businesses. Yeah. Most of these kids are from different parts of the world, different parts of the country, who are, if they're coming from New York or Philly or whatever, they're used to, like, the big stuff. They're not used to, like, hitting up Syracuse.com or buying the, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. You have to do stuff like that to be attractive to them.
100%, yeah. But yeah, I like downtown. I think is really evolving. I like because in Philly, I left my car, like, somewhere out in the suburbs, and would just walk everywhere. Mm-hmm. And downtown's starting to get that feel with more restaurants cropping up outside of Armory Square. Because you're starting to get guys. You got Deefy out there, and then you got Eden over there, and then, so it's starting to make its own little box, I think. Yeah, and I think it's good to be inside that box. Yeah. But we're trying to get people to come, one more block up. Yeah. From Salina Street.
Right.
But, yeah.
If you limited or unlimited resources and all that kind of stuff, would you have chosen to be in this? Maybe not necessarily specifically in the space, but in downtown, or would you have chosen, like, a suburb?
Probably downtown. I think downtown gives the idea of more cutting edge. Okay. I do like what's happening in Westcott a lot too. Yeah. Westcott's a really cool, like, walkable area. Yeah. So probably there it kind of gives the idea of cutting edge. I'd probably, like, if I had my druthers about it, I would be in a slightly smaller space and I'd run that. But the only problem that we see with downtown is it's a driving community around here.
Yeah.
And people aren't
Yeah.
accustomed to paying for parking
Right.
and don't want to pay for parking.
Yeah. Especially when it just doubled.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So people will be like, there's no place to park. You can cancel our reservation. We're going to go somewhere else.
Really?
Yeah, we've had a couple people call in and be like, we drove around, and I don't know what it is. And in Philly, we I'll park on 20th Street and walk to 13th Street,
Yeah.
and that's, I got an awesome parking spot. I only have to walk 10 minutes, and then, but here it's like, oh, I can't pull up right in front of the restaurant. Sorry.
Yeah.
There's a place I can park.
Have you thought about doing valet?
We have. It's just tough. There's even on valet.
Then you trying to find space.
You got to find. Yeah, you got to find a space. You got to find a parking lot to park the cars.
Yeah.
So we just kind of.
Yeah.
We thought about doing a comp valet. We thought about validating parking and stuff like that. But it can be really a hit or miss. There's not to call anybody out or anything.
Yeah.
But the parking garage across the street closes down at 9:00. So if there's people in our restaurant at 9:00, they come over and they're like, there's people. You gotta come.
Really?
You gotta go. So we get my little brother works pizza, so I'm like, all right, go take their people's keys and pull the cars out because they're eating. So it's just
That's awesome.
So
Yeah.
just kind of.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely frustrating. I was talking, if you're not used to it, I mean, I'm 33, so I'm not, that young or that old, but
Right.
4 years ago when I didn't live I live on the north side, so 4 years ago when I didn't live near downtown and didn't work downtown,
Right.
coming downtown was like,
Yeah, it was kind of a hassle, right?
Right. Friends were like, oh, let's go here. I don't, if there's no parking, listen.
Exactly. Yeah.
Now it's still, don't get me wrong. If I'm going to Kubal on Salina
Right.
and there's no parking right there, I'm going to go to a different Kubal.
Right.
Where I know there is
Right.
parking.
Yeah.
But you just kind of get used to it.
You do. Yeah. I think and it's not generally a bad thing to be a driving society. I mean, sustainability questions aside,
Right.
but it is what it is here at this
Yeah.
point. We've established ourselves as a driving city.
Right.
A lot of people walk. They do have the bike share program, which I love.
Yeah.
I used it a lot in Philly. We had one.
Yeah. I haven't tried it here yet. I think it's just from that driving mentality.
Yeah.
I'm looking at where the stations are. And I'm like, well, that's nowhere near where I
Need to go. Right. Yeah. For sure. There's I think it'll evolve a little bit over time. The one in Philly definitely has. I mean, they started really low, and I mean, I like riding bikes.
Yeah.
I wouldn't consider myself a
Cyclist.
biker or anything but
Yeah.
I like to hop on I bought a vintage bike and painted it and tore it down, and
Nice.
I had a bunch of fun with it. So I ride it around, and
Yeah.
I like to do that, but it's definitely a driving community, and
Yeah.
you're constantly fighting that, but eventually,
Yeah.
I think and there's more people moving downtown, and
Yeah, there are.
as long as they don't stop somewhere on their way home from work or they work downtown, they should walk.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
don't
there's it's amazing to see even this building. I forget the corner. I think it's State Street and something, but this apartment building that they're putting up, it's just gorgeous right now.
Yeah.
And it's really amazing to see all that expansion in the area just in the past couple years.
Yeah, it's crazy. They I live in the Icon Tower above the restaurant.
Okay.
So
That's pretty convenient.
yeah, it's extremely convenient. It's also horrifying sometimes, but yeah.
Yeah, because you're always home.
Yeah, the 7:00 phone calls from delivery drivers aren't my favorite thing in the world, but they are. It is what it is. But so yeah, we try to walk around, go to places downtown as much as we can.
Yeah.
I mean, we're probably part of the problem as well. The other thing that's is different from a bigger city is most people are on a 5-day schedule. I mean, we're open, I fully admit we're part of the problem right now. Is Tuesday to Saturday. That's our schedule.
Yeah.
And I mean, we could open 7 days a week. The question is it worth to staff a restaurant on a Monday?
Yeah.
Probably not.
Right.
It might be worth the staff. It might be, we're talking about doing a Sunday thing, maybe a brunch or something along those lines. But it all just kind of, it depends if it's, I mean, it's good and bad.
Yeah.
It's nice that we're closed 2 days and like you can chill for a little while. But in the back of your mind, you're like, oh, well, I could probably, do a little bit better if I open this day. But
just
is it worth it? Yeah, just downstairs. So it's really a checks and balances thing. I mean, restaurants in big cities 7 days a week is the standard and is the expected thing. Like if you go to a place on Monday and they're closed, you're like,
right,
the hell.
I know. It's like, you think of the Gym Diner, they're closed on Mondays. And I love the fact I've said this a few times and I still haven't done it, but I love the fact that Kasai is open until like 2 or 3 in the morning.
Yep.
And I just have this image of me going in there at like 1 a.m. and getting ramen and really enjoying it.
I've done it.
I haven't yet.
It's perfect.
I keep talking about how much I love it and I haven't done it.
It's awesome. It's just, and I think he's in the perfect location to be able to do that.
Yeah.
I think us on Warren Street right now.
Yeah.
Very different. We're not, nobody's coming through that door at midnight,
Right.
Which is fine. I'm not going to complain about not being open till 2 a.m.
Sure.
I'll lose my mind. But I think the broader hours, it can help, and you just have to be able to staff it correctly.
I like the fact that the brine well, tried stuff out and then put, all right, it's not working. We're not going to do it anymore.
Yeah. I think that's kind of what we want to do. My dad's a little hesitant because he's kind of like, you open on Sundays, you're open on Sundays from now on, no matter what. Like you're not like, so it's kind of tough. And I got to watch the Eagles on Sundays too. So it's kind of like
there is, I will say, Carmelita's Mexican. Now, granted, she's up in Cicero.
I've heard about it and I want to go out there. I saw your post on it.
Yeah.
I have to try it because I need some good Mexican food.
So I'm going to just warn you because I'm sure that you know what good Mexican food is.
Absolutely.
And it doesn't exist in Syracuse. Okay. So I love Carmelita's.
Yeah.
And I do a lot of, work for her for free and that kind of, but whatever. So she does great food. I mean, she makes her own tortillas to make her own chips.
Oh, awesome.
And she makes like 50 corn tortillas a day. And when those 50 are gone, you get the one she buys from the supplier.
Oh, really?
Yeah. She's not going to go make more. Yeah. So it's like if you want her stuff, you have to kind of get there
Go
earlier.
there in the morning. Are they closed Sunday, Monday? Is that?
So this is kind of what I was getting to. She was like asking me, do you think I should do brunch? Because she's been closed Sundays and Mondays. She's like, do you think I should do Sunday brunch? I've had people ask me for it. I'm thinking about just opening up every Sunday for a brunch. And I was like, do it once a month, see what your response is. If it's a good response consistently, then do it.
Yeah.
And once a month she did brunch and was like slammed. I mean, and it's a tiny restaurant. I mean, there's maybe 12 tables in there.
Right.
Kind of spread out, but 12 tables.
Right.
And she was slammed. So now starting in October, she's going to do Sunday brunch every Sunday.
That's the best news I've heard all day.
Yeah. But she does, it was just the only taco I had around here that I kind of wrote them off if they weren't making their own tortillas.
Right.
I'm a white guy born in Kentucky in Syracuse and raised in Syracuse. I can make freaking good tortillas, right?
Yeah.
Like it's not hard.
Right.
I get labor and that kind of stuff, but still, if you're buying tortillas and you're a Mexican place,
right,
I think there's something wrong with it.
I think it's similar. I mean, extruded things aside to buying pasta. Like we buy in a couple of extruded pastas because we don't have an extruder is $10,000.
Yeah, right.
Not happen. So, but all of our, I think right now there's one pasta that's bought in, and that's our chicken riggies because can't extrude.
Yeah.
We use Cresto de Gallo, which is a coxcomb. Basically, it's got a little hat on.
Yeah.
But that's the only thing we buy in. But like, it's just better quality to make it. And I think the thing that I know my girlfriend misses about Philly, and that I definitely miss about Philly the most that we can't find in Syracuse for certain things is like generally authentic ethnic food in general.
Yeah.
Mexican food.
Yeah.
Indian food. I'm trying to think where else we're dying for. There's one other food, and I can't even think of it.
Yeah.
But
if you were doing Mexican, like I recommend Carmelitas.
right, yeah,
Mainly because it was the only one that had this crazy flavor that didn't have like a chipotle mayo or sour cream or something. But Mi Casita is really freaking good.
Where is that? I feel like
I want to say it's Lodi.
Is it Lodi? Okay.
You know where Deloro's Bakery is?
Yeah.
It's across the street from there.
All right, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Which is pretty awesome because you have like Deloro's right there and then Mi Casita. And I think there's some other like little bodega type.
Oh, yeah,
in
that little like corner,
Yeah.
like that's right next to the park right in the middle there. Yeah. My dad grew up around there, so I'm familiar with it for the most part.
Yeah.
My girlfriend, when she was working on the farm, you work with a lot of Mexican immigrants. So they would bring in lunch every day, and she would like learn how to make salsa verde. She would learn how to make like all these things from these guys who were just making it every day. They would like when like a chicken got too old on the farm, like we have the chicken, and they would take it and they would go slaughter it and they would eat the chicken. And she was like, it's the best chicken I've ever had. It's just like boiled chicken. Yeah. And they put it on tortillas with salsa verde. Yeah. And for some reason I don't know why. Around here, especially from what I've seen, is that like Mexican food and like Latin American food is over commercialized. I think it's a misunderstanding almost.
It is.
I would love to have a little taco stand. Yeah. And just make like 3 tacos and have 3 toppings. I mean, like the best tacos have meat, diced onion, and cilantro, and then like they serve it with some lime. Those are the best tacos, hands down. As long as you can get like, I have no idea where they source it from, some crazy like delicious, even out of season oranges that you can juice, and they're like the most amazing orange juice you've ever had to serve it with. But yeah, we had our places in Philly. There was this place, it was called Primo Pizza. Okay. It didn't have they couldn't afford to change the sign, and they bought a pizza shop in the Italian market. And so you walk in and you're like, oh, I'm going to go get a slice of pizza. And it's just this little like line, and they have like 4 different kinds of tacos. And you're like, oh, okay, I guess I'm getting tacos. And they have like chicken, beef tongue, and like El Pastor. And you're like, all right,
amazing.
I'm good. That's fine. So
I have a good friend here. His name's Alan, and he's a stay-at-home dad. His kids are homeschooled, but he makes some of the best everything. I mean, he will find a recipe, and he'll just go on a kick. So it may be like Szechuan for 2 weeks, then it could be Indian, then it could be Mexican, whatever. But he just makes the best everything. I mean, his fried chicken, he found some weird article about how Colonel Sanders, when he opened up and then like sold it, he went into one of the stores and found out that they weren't using his original recipe. And so he went to some spice company and said, this is my original recipe. Right. Will you just always have this for sale? Like some contract. As long as they're open, they have to have it. And it's called Spice X. And I forget the company that makes it, but he found out where it is and buys it and makes his fried chicken, and it's amazing. Like if he has leftover fried chicken, he wraps it in newspaper because it like stays better, I guess.
That's crazy. Oh, that's so cool.
I had him doing like one iteration of Eat Local as we did like a bi-weekly blog, and I had like 5 writers, and he did the recipe. And he did like Haas and Pfeffer. We got rabbits. He did like legit Haas and Pfeffer, and made the Spätzle and all that kind of stuff. And but one of them was for Cinco de Mayo. He did Pollo Asado El Carbone, and it was freaking amazing.
That's awesome. I love it.
I have this story of way back. I had an assistant working for me like one day a week. We were out at Hillside Farms working in their little cafe, and we were getting ready to leave. I went to go to the bathroom, and I gave her my credit card, and I said, hey, will you go up to the counter and just get 3 steaks? I'm going over to Allen's tonight for dinner. And she was like, yeah, what do you want? I said, I don't know, just tell the butcher you want something good but nothing crazy. Right. And so I come out of the bathroom, and she had these steaks. The package was like that high. For people who can't see, it's like 18 inches, whatever. and the price tag was like $198. And I was like, what did you buy? She said, I told him what you said, and this is what he gave me. And they were some ridiculous.
Oh, my God.
I forget what the cut was, but it was like dry aged bone. It was like everything.
Yeah, you got like a dry aged bone and porterhouse for two.
And so I called Alan up and I was like, hey, man, so about dinner tonight. He goes, yeah, I actually can't do it. I go, well, you're doing it because I have $200 worth of raw meat. And so I told him, he was like, oh, my God. He's like, go to Wegmans, get these ingredients, come over. So I go to like the big Wegmans out there, and I got this, what the hell, smoked blue cheese. I still to this day have never been able to find it.
All right.
From this farm. Smoked blue cheese. I got like shrimp, and I forget what else I picked up. But basically, he made this steak with the smoked blue cheese on top of it, and like just covered in butter. And then he did this Cajun shrimp that's basically has 2 sticks of butter and like a cast iron skillet with a dozen shrimp and all this Cajun seasoning.
That's perfect.
And to this day, it was just like the best meal. And we've tried to recreate it before, and we can't.
There was the $200 random piece of meat that you're never going to be able to find again.
Exactly.
Oh, I love it. I mean, and the secret to all that is that butter is the best ingredient.
Yeah, right. It is. My fiance is a dietitian, so I have to be careful a lot of times, or she can't be in the kitchen when I'm cooking certain things.
That's fair.
So, well, I get, one last question I have for you is, if you could change anything about the scene in Syracuse, the food scene in Syracuse, what would it be?
For me, I would probably, and I think it's headed in that way, but just a little bit more open-mindedness in general. And that might just be because of the Italian thing. But yeah, I think just a little bit of general, more willing to try something new. I mean, I get a lot of people coming in. Nothing's wrong with it, but they come in, they order chicken riggies, or they come in, they order chicken parm, and I have those two things on my menu to maintain a general level of not riot. But besides, I think one pasta outsold chicken riggies last month. But we're selling 200 bowls of chicken riggies compared to
wow.
100 bowls of, pasta rolled by hand, filled with local ingredients. So it's all just general. And there's certain things that I like purposefully, like words that I keep off of the menu because I'm like, I know people won't buy this because it says this. So it's all just kind of like, it's playing a game, and it can be kind of fun, but it can be like extremely frustrating.
Yeah.
And I think the scene's definitely on its way up.
Yeah.
But there's definitely, I think, a little reluctance from primarily an older crowd, but you're just kind of trying to, please everybody, but it's impossible.
Yeah.
But it could be a little bit more.
Yeah. The last thing I'll say is I had this idea the other night to get 4 of the best chefs, which, by the way, you won the Instagram
did I?
off the other day.
Oh, awesome. Thank you.
There was like 12 people that kept saying Alex.
Oh, really?
But I did it because I had this idea to get like the 4 best chefs in Syracuse in the city, and either A, have all of them come to one restaurant and work together to put out a dinner, which is kind of, I guess, similar to what Mark is doing. You know? Either that or set it up at 4 different restaurants and do like a mystery dinner. You don't know which chef is going to be at which restaurant until you show up.
Oh, so that's cool. I like
you could
that.
be at D-Feed, Nick and Cody could be at your spot,
Oh, that's really cool. Yeah. That'd be a lot of fun. I would love to do something like that. I like doing like collabs and things like that. I mean, they're tough in general, like to put them together yourself. Yeah. Especially like with the timing, but when other people do, count me in because it's just fun. Yeah. It's just a lot of fun to like.
I'm going to try and get that one set up.
All right. You let me know. I'm in.
Yeah, that'll be fun. Cool. Well, thanks so much for taking the time.
Thank you very much.